Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Three Live Canes. My name is Chris. Box says so right there. Whether that's Bill, there's a box said so, and then that's Steve-O. Steve-O's in an upward rectangular box here to talk to you guys about another week of Miami Hurricanes football. If you thought last week, but obviously was disappointed, we didn't get what we wanted to get. I didn't get a championship. Had to talk about that, but then right back to fortuitous weeks for the Hurricanes because we talked a lot about the legal ramifications. Bill put his lawyer hat on. Basically just flipped that hat around the other way and started talking about the legalities of certain things. But turns out none of that stuff mattered because Duke folded like a wet paper towel. And Miami, again, has a last-minute addition in the transfer portal as a quarterback, probably being one of the best, if not the best guy out there. So we'll talk about all about that kind of fun stuff, the decisive victory over a pathetic Duke team who gave up just weakly, whimpering into the night. In a second. But before all that, Bill, how are we feeling tonight?
I think fortuitous is the word of the night here. But yeah, a victory I think we all saw coming. But I spent a lot of time, earlier this weekend to last week just reading all the wannabe Duke lawyers on the internet saying how somehow they were going to win and he wasn't going to play and he'd have to sit out, and it was just all good to see it come full circle. Just another fantastic offseason championship for the Miami Hurricanes.
That's right. Steve-O, how are we feeling?
Feeling good. It's been a great week training wise, coaching wise. I'm at my setup, but having some issues with the PC, so I'm OGing it on the phone. You guys can see, my Funko Pops collection back there. No green screen, all that. Yeah, it's it's lit. But we landed marquee quarterback, the guy that everybody was saying, the entire country was talking about. Is he gonna play? Like epoxy. Is he gonna be able to play? Is he gonna this? If you ask Duke, the kid career was over. Now he wasn't gonna be able to go to the bathroom no more. If you ask the guys on Twitter over there, but I'm not gonna lie, they probably got a pretty nice chunk of change. Because that contract was definitely $4+ million. Because that was the rate last year. And for the quote Fat Joe, the yesterday's price is not today's price. So I'm pretty sure Duke got their fair share of change, and now it's time for them to move on. Miami's via ACC gifted them an ACC title, so we just get back, take a quarterback or and a white boy receiver that I like. So it's nice. It's nice when your team is the one, we just got a $30 million check from the college football playoff that we didn't have to share with nobody. So that's what helps facilitate these type of moves.
100%. When you're able to do things you're supposed to do on the field, and it tends to work out well for you off the field too, and it's really good for Miami. Looking forward to next year. So we got to talk about those two guys that Steve-O mentioned and everybody else in this portal class. Miami's done a good job. I think up to fourth. Start right now in the 24/7 rankings. Let's talk about that and everything else we got going. The schedule release, we'll hit on that too. But obviously, we've got a lot of time to talk about that here in the next however many months until football starts again. So thank you guys for joining us here on Three Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Urban's got it. Urban's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, but he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big game.
Hurt, dog. Don't ask me for more. Hell no. Duffy Husker up to the races. That's what they needed.
That's Ricks going up for Thorpe, and it's intercepted near midfield. Sean Taylor's got another one.
Who else?
Who else but Sean? Who else but us here on a Wednesday night to talk some Miami Hurricanes football with you guys out there. The biggest story is the story that we've all been following now for weeks, as you guys both have been mentioning. Darian Mensah, once the quarterback at Tulane, then the quarterback at Duke, now the quarterback of your Miami Hurricanes after what seemed to be a very complicated legal process. Just some untangling needed to be done so he could get out of his contract with Duke University, who, yes, won the ACC. Wonderful. Great job. They did an excellent job last year doing that and allowing us to see Mensah as much as we did, because then we were like, I think that's the guy. I think that's the guy that got to come down to Miami, play one more season. And it certainly worked out well for the Hurricanes. And yes, a pretty penny was likely paid to Duke University. But I mean, they have money. It's not like they don't have any money. They're one of those big schools. They have basketball championships, all that kind of stuff. They probably got some money up there. Though I will say that the Duke fans who were taking a beating once it was decided that they were taking a real beating. Those fans that stood in the paint and said, "Yeah, okay, we were wrong," I respect it. Those fans that started to post gifs of like wheelbarrows full of cash and like money things, I'm like, my guy, like you lost your quarterback. Like you were making no money on this deal. Like they're gonna waste that money on some other guys. They probably paid the kid from San Jose State $2 million just to come over there. So like that,
it's going to next year's point guard.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good thing for you guys. Manny Diaz is not going to be able to turn that cash into high profile players. So, but I appreciate you guys trying, but that is all in the past. Miami pulls in Darian Mensah. And in doing so, I mean, what's the point of going to Duke if you're only going to take one guy? Might as well go get their leading receiver, the 9th leading receiver in the country, Cooper Barkate, and pull him in too. Steve-O described him very eloquently before, so I'll throw to him in a second to go back to him. But last minute portal haul for Miami, and a lot of people were wondering, they were concerned, they didn't know if it was going to work, and then all of a sudden, Bill, that last second quarterback magic played out again for Coach Mario.
Yeah, 3 for 3. Hitting those shots at the buzzer between Cam Ward, Carson Beck stealing them from the NFL, and then stealing Darian Mensah, at the buzzer, from Duke, as well as the receiver, and then Landon, Damian Wilson just a couple of days before that as well. So this portal class, it was, if you were looking for headliners, it really wasn't necessarily. You probably weren't too happy then just, in a span of a couple of days, you have one of the best portal classes in the country. So, I get the frustration from fans early on in the process, right? I was one of those. I was like, what the hell are we going to do? It just didn't seem like anything was going to connect. And then, another rabbit gets pulled out of the hat. So unbelievable job by the staff. And, just like that, we're talking potential natty next year.
Which, we talked about it in the past, and now it really feels like very real. A bunch of Broward people in the chat, Steve-O. CF Kane fan. You got Canes.
My boy, a lot of hair, baby. Yes, sir.
But, we're legitimately talking national championship aspirations with, you bring in some portal guys at the caliber that we did. It's very reasonable to argue that Miami got the best defensive player in the portal and possibly the best offensive player in the portal, depending on how you look at things. I could see someone make an argument for both of those things, especially in a quarterback portal class where I think Lagway was like the 4th rated quarterback. And you're like, really?
Those rankings are.
Yeah. So it's very possible we got the best on the offensive and defensive side, adding to a team that made the national championship game last year. Steve-O, your thoughts on bringing in Mensah? I know we talked a little bit last week, and the additional piece to the puzzle with getting a very talented wide receiver to come along with him.
Thankfully I don't know why, but I do have Duke all 22 film, so I am working on a review for him. I did have to go in my bag, reach out to some people to get it. So I guess I do know why. I'm a crazy Hurricanes fan, so yeah, I do things like that. But very excited because he is definitely what we needed. I think we'll see more 2024 of this offense with that type of explosion. Depends on how the tackles play, because if the tackles are, there's going to be some drop off from Markel Bell and Francis Mount. Let's be real. There's going to be a little bit of drop off. But do they need that tight end next to them, consistently? Because I think this is a team that we can go more 4 wide receiver sets, especially if Lofton or another tight end doesn't really pop out to be that vertical threat. When 2024 we had Elijah Arroyo, that was basically another receiver for us. He was a guy who could stretch the field, he could take short passes, he could block on the perimeter. He was a very valuable chess piece for us. So if tight end position doesn't wake up, I could see more 4, receiver sets in this future, lighten up the box for Fletcher, Lyle, Pringle, Brown. We have all 4 coming back. I think that was crazy. I thought one of them was gone when Pringle hit the portal, and then, I was like, boom, okay. And then, he came right back. So maybe we spread them out a little bit more. But depending on the tackles, like I'm super excited for this offense. Mensah looks good. Throws an impeccable deep ball, and there's a lot of guys who throw good deep balls, but when you consistently throw it to the outside shoulder, you're eliminating the defender from the play. Now it's just it's on your receiver to make that play. So I'm very excited about that. Cooper, I love me a good Cooper, man. Sneaky athleticism, first one in, last guy out. You know what they say about guys like us. And I'm super excited because people are going to see him. Oh, he's a white boy. Yo, he is sliding. This 2026, man, Canes receiver room, two of the fastest players in the room are white chocolate. We'll say that. Yeah, let's say that because Vance Spafford is legit 4-3 guy. Cooper can take the top off. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's averaged over 15 yards a catch for his career. He's taking the top off. So it's just nice to see some whole milk out there, baby. I'm excited.
I feel the energy, Steve. I feel how excited you are.
I just had this conversation with my uncle. He couldn't believe it.
Two?
Yeah. Well, it was more of like, who do you think the fastest guy on the team is going to be next year? And he was like, Mally. I was like, Mally's going to be up there. But we got Pringle. I was like, you know what? Parrish, and I was telling about him, and I was like, you know what, bro? Vance is like a laser 4.33 right now. Like that's before he gets in the program and starts this strength and conditioning. So I was just like, yo, it might be. He's like, you talking about Goldilocks? I'm like, yes, bro, Goldilocks. Yes, him. Yeah, it's nice to see. We're get some speed out there.
That's great. It's the first thing I thought of when I started to watch Spafford film. I was like, speed guy. But it turns out to be like he might be the guy in terms of speed. So it works out. And now you think about the guys that we got, and especially in that receiver room now, and like it's easy to talk about the effect of experienced quarterback on receivers, right? We saw that Beck and Mally had a good relationship last year. How does bringing in a Mensah affect what we do with a Malachi Tony, who, it really wasn't, Beck wasn't throwing a lot of deep balls necessarily. And if he did, it really wasn't to Mally. He was more underneath. Does it affect the way that we use him? Like, is he a guy that you would say, hey, now that you can spread the field a little bit more because we have a quarterback that can throw it?
No, I think Beck just missed him downfield multiple times, especially on slot fades. He was killing safeties, eating that cushion, getting them out. All you had to do is put that ball in the air with some anticipation. I think Mally's gonna open his game vertically. To be honest with you, I think Beck just was, towards the end of the season. Yeah, he made some throws to make some plays. The C.J. Daniels touchdown ended Pitt, the Virginia Tech touchdown, at the end. However, he was definitely just playing mistake-free football, move the chains, and rely on the running game, which is not a bad way to win because, obviously we made it through the playoffs and almost won a national championship with that formula. So, hey, I ain't coming at him. But we should have a more explosive element with Mensah at quarterback. I think we'll see more of that, more of that downfield stretching element to his game, which the underneath stuff is going to be there if you could take the top off the defense. So I just want to know, like, even if it's not Mally going deep, I think he will get more deep shots this year, but it should honestly give him more space underneath because their teams have to respect our deep ball.
Yeah, and like the opportunity to get that space with some of these guys that we have added to the list, and we'll talk about them in a second. But Bill, your thoughts on Mally, and then even other guys that are still in the pipeline, like Joshua Moore, like the guy, that big physical target, and if you're not having a tight end, he could certainly be a guy that can contribute.
Yeah, like Steve was saying, I think this offense is going to be more, stylistically like 2024. With just more, downfield passing, if you want to, critique this past offense, right? We weren't very explosive. We were efficient, right? And that's kind of what we were talking about preseason. It's not going to look like last year, but, can we just pound the rock, manage the game? But, bringing in Mensah, with his number one guy from Duke, having Mally, bringing in, Jacobs from South Carolina, who's got some serious speed. Cam Vaughn from West Virginia, and then the guys we already do have on the roster. I think we're going to see it just be spread out a little bit more. So it wouldn't surprise me to see like Mally's stats drop, but him actually have more big type play or big plays down the field. So I'm excited. It just needs to just come together, and that's what Dawson's getting paid a lot of money for. We have a a plethora of elite
easy,
skill position guys.
Easy, Bill.
Yep. We're 4 deep at running back. We got plenty of receivers. Tight end's a question mark, and then offensive line is a question mark. I didn't say weakness before anyone starts yelling at me. It's just a question mark going into the year. So that's what I think can potentially hold the offense back. Although I don't see that happening, but I am excited just to kind of go more to that true air raid system than just duo inside zone every time. Although it was effective most of the time.
Yeah, especially later in the year. Steve, how do you think, Bill mentioned the other 2 guys we got in the portal in terms of the receiver position. So this is a team that added a lot there. Cam Vaughn, like you said, from West Virginia, and Van Jacobs from South Carolina. Like we now have 3 new bodies in that receiver room, all of which are guys that one would expect to contribute. Like, how do these guys all fit in? Are the roles of previous years that you would say, oh, this guy's going to fit the Jacoby George role. This guy's going to fit this role. Like, how do you see it all playing out?
Nobody was fitting that role. Let's chill. Another example, Chris. Another example.
All right, is this guy's going to fit the Keelan Marion role? Is this guy going to fit
We can do that. We can do that.
All right. Well, how do you see these guys fitting together?
So let's be honest. We brought in Cooper Barkate. He's probably going to start. When I say probably, I mean, yeah. Jacobs, his speed is going to be an X factor for us. I think Lenore Sellers sold him on like 3 touchdowns. I've only watched 4 games, all 22 from South Carolina, and he's already missed him on like 4 downfield shots. One went to the sideline when it almost knocked the cheerleader out. She probably needed to get a nose job. And then a couple that just were short underthrown. So his speed is actually like really, really good. I think he's juiced up. I know they had Harbor, who has like Olympic speed, even though he's like the rock size. But yeah, this guy is just as fast, if not just probably maybe like a half a step behind. And he has size at 6'2". So I think he's a guy who can come in and fight for a starting position. I would love for Josh Moore to make both of those guys sit the bench, to be honest with you. But they do raise the floor. Vaughn is, I think, probably the more X factor of wild card of the 3 transfers. I think we know what we're going to get from Cooper. I think we know what we're going to get from Jacobs. I think Vaughn has the most he could show that we haven't seen on tape because of how terrible West Virginia was running the football. That they were playing coverage, dropping 8, and you saw Vaughn, just make a lot of big body plays. But also, once he got a little bit of space, he was making plays after the catch. He was making contested catches downfield. And come the playoffs, they let you play a little bit. Let's be real, playoff football, it was honestly nice. They weren't throwing that much flags on the pass interference. Should they have called some egregious ones like the one at Ole Miss on CJ? Yeah. But for more than not, even letting our corners be physical. So you need some physical receivers who can make contested catches because come playoff time, that flag's not always going to save you. And, even in ACC time, that's definitely not going to save you. So unless we move to the Big 12, we're going to always be playing with bad refs during the season. Or the SEC or, whatever other conference, but, ACC refs are terrible. So we need some big bodies there. So I like the side, that we get 2 6+ guys. Obviously CJ and Marion were 6+ guys. So, we're bringing those in. But then we also have 4 freshmen. And I think, 1 or 2 of them are going to have to, throw their name in the hat, get some snaps. Best thing about that freshman core is there's a lot of explosion there. So even if you're not a high volume target guy, but defenses are keen on Malley. You know that already. They were keen on him already all year after Notre Dame. They're keying on him. You get Cooper, they're gonna key on him. So you sneak in a Parrish who's a 6'6", 4'3" guy, 4'4" guy, and he gets a one-on-one matchup, he blows by somebody, or you sneak in a Spafford and he gets an end around when they're not looking. They're looking at Malley. Next thing you know, you got Spafford zooming down the field, or Samarian Wingo, who looks like he's been at Miami for 4 years, the way his body looks. These kids get that one-on-one matchup, or just a slip because the safety's so focused on 10, or the safety's focused on, I think Barkate. I don't know what number he's gonna wear. I don't think anybody has 18. But if they do, it doesn't matter. We got plenty of numbers open. We got 1 open. We got 5 open, 7 open.
I mean, Cooper would probably take like an 83.
Hell nah.
85.
Hell
That'd be a good
nah.
one for him.
Nah, bro. No. I don't know if he want 18. I don't know if he's attached to that number, so he rocked that.
81.
But 19's available, 1's available, 11, 12's available.
86.
13's available. But no, he better not go out there with no 83, bro. Because he's getting paid a lot of money, bro. He's getting paid a lot of money, bro. Do not come out there with no 83. I ain't gonna be mad at it. But yeah, bro, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Come on. But we're going to be deep at receiver. I think there might be a little bit more rotation this year. The Canes fans were crying for more rotation, mostly because they wanted to see JoJo. They saw how that went.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have more ability to rotate. Joshua Moore coming in as a sophomore. I'm expecting him to eating these snaps no matter who starts out there. I expect to see Joshua Moore getting 20 plus snaps a game, 30 snaps a game, especially red zone. I think they probably underutilized him in the red zone. I think after that USF catch, I thought, hey, we're gonna see some fade balls, towards Joshua Moore. We didn't see that. Mensah throws a really good fade ball, one of those rainbow ball nose down back shoulder vibe. It's me or the first guy sitting in the stands. So I like that. I think maybe they could use Joshua more. I think regardless if he starts or not, he should be playing 20, 20, 30, 25 plus snaps a game, especially in red zones. He's just too much of a quarterback friendly target.
For sure. And a couple questions popped in related to specifically Mally. And I got one from CF Kane fan a while ago. It's more on the defensive side that I'll get back to. But this is more like of a aesthetic question because we're talking about numbers. So will Tony give up his number or does the quarterback choose go with number 1? So would Mally switch to 1 and give Mensah 10 or does Mensah go 1?
Mally ain't giving up nothing. It's whatever he wants to do. Let's be real. I don't care how much they paid that guy. If Mally says I want 10, I'm keeping 10. That's exactly what's happening. But Mally started off at 10 as Heritage and then switched his sophomore year to number 1 once Brandon Ennis left. So I wouldn't be mad if he switched to 1.
I like him as 10. It's different. It fits. I don't know. I know it's like not traditional, but it just kind of fits.
He does everything.
He's a superstar. He's number 10. He should just ride it out.
Like the strikers in like soccer, like all wear 10, like they're the killers. So it does actually work out. We'll see what happens with that.
I think Mensah got options, bro. Pick 1, pick 5, pick 7. I think 8's even open on offense. Am I tripping? Who got 8?
Moore's 8. No, Moore's 3.
Yeah. 8's open on offense as well. So is 11, 12, and 13 because Nykar hit. Dalen Upshaw switched to 15. Yeah, bro, you got plenty of numbers, bro. Like, come on. Like, I don't want to. I ain't gonna say Mally shouldn't switch to 1, but I do agree with y'all. I like the 10. It's fresh. They just take 10 out retirement.
Yeah.
But they might retire it again after you, bro.
It's got a pretty good hit rate with George Mira, and then like 80 years later, Malachi Tony. It's a pretty good deal. It's working out for those guys.
Yeah, you just can't let that go.
The other question is, Steve-O, you think Malachi should add weight? I'm on told D Money, heck no. People that could help him with how like physical, his play style is and how many hits he takes. But it doesn't really take a lot of direct hits with how quick he is. But Steve, what are your thoughts?
Nah, don't beef him up. I mean, bro, that's not his game. He's already solid compact. He's not like a skinny kid. He's short, but he's compact, well put together. If anything, I'm just trying to improve his overall strength and just pound for pound strength. I wouldn't be so obsessed with bulking him up. No, that's not his game. And with all the guys we're bringing in, 4 running backs, all these other receivers, he's not supposed to be taking so much hits a game. And if we start throwing him the ball more vertically, he's not running against 11. These quick screens or these jet passes where everybody's just teeing off on him. So no, I don't want to bulk him up, to be honest, at all. I think I've been pissed off at UM in the past for bulking up a lot of players. That was probably the last staff, the Feely days. I know you guys remember that, where guys would come in super fast and just be slow as hell. Like Brashard Smith. Like we saw him at SMU just skating and we're like, yo, what the heck, bro? and it's because we were trying to make everybody a 200-pounder. I mean, they had X up to 200 pounds in sophomore year. Like, come on, bro, it's egregious. Y'all need to stop. I'm happy we fired y'all. Well, I didn't fire y'all, but I would have if I had the power. I'm happy. I'm happy Coach Cristobal fired y'all because what the hell?
Yeah.
One thing about Mel, he's only 18 years old, so I mean he's not done growing, and he's just going to naturally get bigger. So I don't think there's any need to force it, but don't mess with what's working. The type of player that he is, he'll just do it on his own. By this time next year, he'll probably like be super like chiseled, just from being such a freak athlete, but.
Yeah.
No need to put him on a McDonald's diet or anything like that to gain weight.
Yeah, we'll keep that to the commentators like us. Bill, you did mention before that the offensive line, a question mark, not a weakness, but a question mark. Miami did go to the portal, added a couple guys. Obviously, Seton decided to go to LSU with Lane Kiffin's long history of offensive line development. I mean, can you question that judgment? But Miami did bring it.
He had at Ole Miss. You want to play skill position, come to me. If you want to play offensive line, go to Mario. Like, that's crazy.
He pretty much and then someone was like, "Nah, I'm gonna ignore what you've already said and do that." So, but Miami did bring in a couple guys. Jamal Merriweather, he came in from Georgia, reserve depth type, and then Jonathan Klein as well, who was a recruit of Mario's a couple years ago. Didn't get an offer from Miami, like an official offer. Went to UCF, went to East Tennessee, I think, East Tennessee State, and then ended up back here. But he was a guy that went to camps. I think he was at like Mario's like big recruiting camps down there and in Miami, but just didn't quite get the offer. But so two depth guys, though Klein's tape looked pretty good. Obviously, like you have to factor in who he was going up against, but he seems like a guy that's not afraid to get out there and scrap and battle as an interior lineman. But Bill, I know you said question mark, not weakness, but how are you feeling right now about the offensive line with the additions that Miami made?
Yeah, I mean, I foresee them as more, depth pieces. I think Merriweather probably has the better chance to start out of those two, at least for next year. But, replacing, four guys, especially one being a wire-to-wire 3-year starter, 5-star, freshman All-American, top 5 pick, probably, pretty much locked to be a top 10 pick. A 4-year starter in Ez Cooper, Brockermeyer, came in as a transfer. And then, a left tackle that was a project and you completed that project. I would have loved to get him back for one more year, but NCAA is just doing NCAA things with those waivers. So you got Sampson and McCoy as your building blocks, and then it just seems like this is probably the first time in a while where there's just multiple spots open for competition with no necessarily clear front runners. But I do trust Mario and Alex Mirabal to get it together. And with the way that the schedule falls this year, you have a little bit of time, even though you do open with an ACC game. You do have a little bit of kind of wiggle room to get things to gel. So I would have loved to land a big fish out of the portal, a guy that you could just pencil in as a starter day one, but unfortunately it didn't happen. That's okay. But again, you have the best O-line coaches in America. I can't see this offensive line falling beyond like a good unit. I think that's kind of the floor at this point.
Yeah, Steve, same question. And thoughts on who you fit in where, who the guys are, because I know you've been really positive on Pancake and McCoy both in the past, and I know looking at even them as specifically kicking out the tackle. But Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm cool with the offensive line. When you have 3 guys going to NFL, that means they've been doing a good job on offensive line. So wait to see what some of the development. I know some of the development pieces left, the portal, and they went to SEC town. That's just how much people respect the ability and eyes of Mirabal and Coach Cristobal. For you to play 28 snaps and you're getting SEC offers, they're respecting where you're coming from and the pedigree that comes with it. So yeah, I mean, if I can't believe I just broke his name, the Georgia transfer. We were just talking about him.
Merriweather.
Yeah, Merriweather. If he doesn't come out as a front runner at right tackle, then you might see the bookends being McCoy and Pancake. I think Pancake's getting his shot at left tackle. I mean, this is why we brought you in. This is why we paid you that money. This is why, we got your feet wet at guard. Even though you had an injury, we brought you in. You balled that guard I would love to see Pancake at left tackle. I think that's probably the plan. And if Merriweather could hold down the right guard position, he's massive, 6'6", 300 plus. He looks like a Mario right tackle. Then that leaves McCoy very comfortable at left guard where he was at, pretty much going drive for drive. Last year started, then, this previous year, or 2 years ago started all the way once Ryan Rodriguez went down. And then, again, excellent play this year. So I would love to see Pancake and McCoy lock down that left side. And then you get to the interior where the questions are, is Ryan Rodriguez going to be healthy? And if he is he going to stay healthy? I don't know. I think he's been a baller every time he's out there. Problem is he's not out there much. So it's hard to depend on that. You got SJ, who was the top interior lineman in the country out of out of Bishop Gorman. What are we going to do with that? I want to see some development there. But yeah, I think a lot is going to plan on how good Merriweather is, because if he could literally come in and lock down a tackle spot, that lets you play around with McCoy at guard.
And like the additional factor is the one name you didn't say is that Cantwell. We got
Oh
we
yeah,
got
yeah. I
same
think he can start at right guard.
like a right guard starter. Do you think Francis came in and started at right tackle day one and never gave the job up? Do you see him as a guy that starts inside, kicks outside, or a guy that could be a tackle on opening day?
I think he's more the Pancake, starts inside and goes outside. His film was very, close to Pancake. Francis Malino was going against 5 stars every day at IMG. He was probably the most polished lineman coming out. Like he was a day one All-American, not freshman All-American, All-American day one. I don't see that from Cantwell. I think he has the potential to do so. Would we have to wait 2.5 years like we did for Pancake? Again, he tore his ACL, so that was a big part of why we had to wait 2.5 years for it. But yeah, no, I would get his feet wet at guard. But again, if Merriweather's not cutting it at tackle, then you have that discussion.
I think Cantwell's going to get every opportunity to compete at right tackle, and if he doesn't take it, then you can slide him to guard. Like Mirabal likes to cross train everybody, so he's going to get reps there anyway. Especially in the spring, you could see a lot of just mixing and matching. Seeing who fits best where. But hopefully, when we're having this conversation, second, third week of August, we're kind of narrowed down to we got our 5, and now it's time to just gel and make it all come together.
Yeah, I think we had the advantage of. I think a lot of us forget the way it was for a lot of for most teams year to year to year, where you're just like sometimes you got to plug in 3 new starters, sometimes you got to plug in 4 new starters without like worrying about getting super experienced guys from the portal. So it's not something that's unheard of in college football, and if you have the best offensive line coaches in the country, it tends to make things a little bit easier. Steve-O's got to get out of here soon, so I want to get one more talk to flip over on the defensive side of the ball. Steve-O brought in a lot of guys. Obviously, Damon Wilson is going to get a lot of the hype for it, but there was a lot of other guys, maybe more under the radar guys on defense that Miami was able to bring in. Omar Thornton, a guy who's you figure is going to be try his best to replace Keontae Scott guy. Conrad Hussey just made a commitment to Miami a couple days ago.
2 Proud Boys coming home.
Keona Davis, another dude come from Nebraska. Kind of that inside-outside player, could play tackle. Jarquez Carter, big-time recruit Miami was after. He's coming in to play D-tackle. Of that group, outside of your Damon Wilson, like who of those guys excites you the most?
It's hard. I was a big Omar guy. He was super under recruited out of American Heritage. He just did nothing but make plays. Coach Frank Tucker, who's on staff now, loved Omar. Played in his Broward versus Dade game that he threw as the Crib, South Florida. Watched Omar's journey to get to Boston College. I mean, I think he's going to be a stud. Does he replace Keontae Scott when it comes to the man coverage on that nickel ability? I don't think so. But he's a great zone defender. He's good, coming down in the hill and making tackles. He can cover. It's not like he's just a hitter out there. He can cover. It's just Scott was just probably honestly the best slot corner that we've seen in a long, long time. So there's going to be some drop off there. It doesn't mean Omar doesn't have that ability, but he is more of that safety linebacker hybrid instead of that like corner nickel hybrid that Scott was. But he's a tone setter, bro. He is a tone setter. Hussey, I think that's a great fit for us, to be honest with you. Things didn't go really well at Oregon State. He kind of cashed out and redshirted it. So people are like, oh, look at his stats. You only had, like, bro, he played like 2 games and was like, yo, this ain't it. I'm gonna reserve my eligibility. So he has 2 years at Miami. Very rangy, very physical. I think he actually like really fits this defense. When you're thinking about it, we know Poizer's a starter, Fitzgerald's going to be a starter. That's kind of like the top two. So now this is a battle between him and Dylan Day to be that third safety. And in this defense, you need to have four. So I think that puts us in a pretty good position, to be honest with you. So I like the pickup. He could be an all ACC type of guy if he puts it together. He was showing those flashes while he was at FSU. So I love it. This is really a low risk, high reward type of take, and sometimes just being put in the right scheme, being put in there. There's some things that happen at Florida State with the staff and him. I don't think that was a lot in his control. From some of that standpoint, that's why their DB coach is no longer there, because he was having continuous issues with players. And I think that really hurt some of their performances. That's why you see a guy like Edwin Joseph now at Ole Miss, Conrad Hussey out. When you think about Florida State's transfers, it's been DBs, and there's been a lot of smoke as to why that's happening. That's why somebody doesn't have a job no more. So I think a fresh start would be really good for him. I wouldn't think he's going to come in and, be a Jacoby Thomas now, but, he can come in and surprise some people.
Yeah, especially in a safety room where he doesn't have to right away. So, like, I think a lot of people will be a little bit more tempered expectations about what he's going to be. When you got Poiser and you got Bryce coming back, it's two guys that are going to probably be at a high level. But then if he's able to step up and take a job or take a bunch of playing time or be just like the spell piece that Bryce was at times for Miami this year, it's definitely going to be like a big opportunity for Miami to keep that momentum going there. It was like one more question that jumped in back here. Any other guys for the nickel spot that you think might fit more if we are trying to go more coverage oriented? Because I know a couple years ago we had kind of a rotation at nickel depending on the situation. Is there a chance that you might find? I mean, Bryce obviously can play anywhere, but you like to have him back center field, I would imagine. But any other guys, Steve-O?
Yeah, I think you're looking at guys like Portis, who's coming in as a freshman, Chris Ewald, who's gotten a lot of reps already as a freshman inside practices at nickel. And outside, he's a very versatile piece. Wouldn't even doubt it if he plays a little bit of safety. However, I do really love Bryce at nickel. However, you have to, and that takes away his ability over the top. But if Omar and Hussey and everybody's doing great at safety, that gives us more versatility, especially in the ACC. A lot of top receivers are the slot receiver, so if we could put Bryce on them and just negate that, that'd be a big thing. But I do see Bryce moving around, and if I had to say it, to be honest, Omar is going to be playing that role a good amount, and I would say maybe Chris Ewald if I'm looking for a young guy to be in there, because I think Jabari Anton's pretty entrenched as the fifth outside corner. He's the guy who's going to play if anybody happens with O'Connor. Damari hasn't been healthy much throughout his whole career, so I think Jabari's kind of got a lead on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ewald's the guy, the young guy inside at nickel, because Amari Wallace hurts my heart, but he is transferring. I think I know where he's going, but because he would have been in that nickel spot.
Fair enough. All right, Steve, I know you got to get out of here. We're going to wrap things up in a couple of minutes. But before you get out of here, Steve, final thoughts for the people.
Go Canes, man. We got a damn quarterback. We got a receiver. This is awesome. The NCAA, it's the wild, wild west right now. We're up some M's, so we're gonna pay and we're gonna win. And not even just the revenue share standpoint from the ACC changing, us getting that, and then obviously the money from being in the college football playoffs and not having to share it from the ACC. This type of season is what gets donors up off their couch. They already were, because the roster we had together, let's be real, like this was a big time roster that we put together. But everybody's on board now, all in. the kids are, won't take as much to be like, oh, we have to triple bid people to buy them. Like, nah, bro. Like the success is in the pudding, the proof is in the pudding. They say the cake's been baked. So it's definitely great time to be a Canes fan. I think we're gonna have some good news soon. It depends on if this kid commits on his mom's birthday or not. But those type of things are already happening right now behind the scenes. Those type of conversations are already happening. Hey coach, can I get an edit? Those type of things are already happening. So I feel really good about Miami's chances. I think once the 2027 start committing, it's gonna be a roll because there's kids that want to fight to get in that class. Like it ain't like it, it ain't like how it was 5, 10 years ago, bro. These kids are gonna be fighting to get into that class. There's some really, really talented guys that I see in a Miami uniform come this time next year.
All right. Love to see it. Thank you, Steve-O. We'll see you again next week, man.
Hell yeah,
Steve-O.
go Canes.
So Miami's sitting right now, like we said, with the opportunity, the defensive side of the ball, adding some good talent. And I got your question there, CF King, and I'll make sure I hit that before we get out of here. The other side of it, besides the defensive backfield, you're bringing in those guys in the secondary, obviously valuable. But the biggest fish on the defensive side of the ball is obviously Damon Wilson, someone that we talked about, as a hypothetical. But as soon as that guy hits the portal, guy of that caliber, he's involved in his own legal stuff. So maybe that's just like a whole thing. We know the lawyers in Miami are doing their job. D-Money, a pro's pro. But like Damon Wilson brings an element to Miami that we have been graciously had for the past couple of years with a Ruben Bain that add to it a Mezzador. So, but your thoughts on Damon Wilson and what he brings to Miami?
He's just going to continue the tradition of elite edge rushers coming out of this university. Even just like in the last 10 years or so, Jalen Phillips, Rousseau, Bain, Mezzador. Wilson's going to add on to that. I'm sure I'm missing a few guys too, but he produced at Missouri. He was in line to start at Georgia, and Georgia really doesn't like to get after the passer anymore. So he goes over to Missouri. Gets probably a nice raise as well. But I see him coming in and kind of taking over that the Mezzador role. But we just have so much juice and talent on that defensive line. That's kind of unbelievable to where we were at 3-4 years ago. But what drove this unbelievable run that we just had was that defensive line, right? The Bain, Mezzador, Moten, coming along. We're taking that step. Justin Scott coming along. All the other guys that just played even sparingly. You saw guys like Blunt making plays, Lightfoot. So it's not we're not going to depend solely on him, right? Which is probably the best part about this is if you want to try and double team Moten, good luck to you, because then Wilson's out there. If you want to try and take out Wilson, Moten, Scott, and the rest of the edge guys are going to be out there too. So really big pickup. It kind of got a little lost in the shuffle a little bit because of everything else going on, but just an amazing pickup, and one I think we really needed, even despite what we already have on the D line, just that proven dominant pass rusher.
Yeah, that long, like bendy edge guy, the guy that every team wants coming out of high school, and every NFL team wants coming out of college, and they're always going to put a priority on the dude that can get around your top tier tackles, and like you could shut him down for a quarter, and all of a sudden he could rip off 2 sacks in 2 drives and shut them down back to back to back. Like that's the kind of stuff that he brings to the table, like a special talent who Mezzador is going to go, I think, in the first round. Ruben Bain's going to go in the top 10 of the first round. Like this is a dude that could, like you said, be right back there in the top 10, top 15 based upon his physical skill set and what he's able to bring to the table. And like you said, what you have to, when you have a guy like that, you have to account for him in a different way. And I think back to the 2017 D line and how Miami was able to throw out there, your stud tackles that were super consistent, made plays, play after play after play. And then you had your edge guys. You had a wave of pass rushers on one side that would come in. You had your Chad Thomas, Mr. Solid on the other side, like a D line that got the job done play after play. and what Miami was able to do. And that tackle room, like, I mean, I know that you bring in Jarquez Carter, who is a young guy with a ton of potential. I guess Davis kind of can be an inside-outside guy when you also have Blunt as like an inside-outside guy. So depending on where they think Keona Davis fits in best, like it seems like he's a guy that we might like as an oversized edge type, and Blunt maybe inside or have them flip back and forth, whatever it might be. But just the stacked talent across that D line is something we haven't seen. And knowing what we've had, this year's group is going to be as good as we've had because of the extra development of them, like the Moten we saw at the end of this year. If we get that Moten for 16 games next year, I mean, that dude is first team All-American caliber.
And I think we're going to see that more just because there's going to be more rotation. Just you weren't taking Bain and Mesidor off the field. Not that they would have came off if you asked them anyway, but you're going to see that. I think that depth really play out where you don't have to have Bain play or your main edge play 70 snaps a game, 80 snaps a game. So. Credit again, Jason Taylor probably, he's going to probably just, start recruiting himself essentially, or guys, just that aura around him. Guys are going to want to play for him and, think of it as, kind of how, who is the, what's the guy from, Hartline, at Ohio State, with the receiver tradition, just, every big time receiver was interested in Ohio State. Right.
Yeah.
I think we're almost to that point, with Jason Taylor. And guy we didn't even talk about, Hayden Lowe, 5-star who probably would have, played significant time this year. He's coming back off an injury. He practiced a little bit, during the playoffs. So, he should be back in the swing of things too. So,
yeah. If Lowe, Lightfoot adds some weight, he could be an every down guy. Like you start talking about the dudes you have it on the edge, then you could have Blunt and Keona Davis playing the inside. And then we have a rotation of 4 guys at D tackle who are all like quick, dynamic players, the guys that can get into the backfield and disrupt things. And we saw what Moten's ability to do. Like Ohio State couldn't disrupt Mendoza. Oregon could. With Oregon is supposed to have, a lot of people say like, oh, it's the best 4 players coming back on the D line in the country. Is the best returning 4. They brought everybody back, and Oregon was not able to disrupt Mendoza at all in that game. Like Amari Washington and Bear Alexander didn't do anything against that interior of the Indiana line. Moten did. Justin Scott did. Those guys, Belay stood there. Those guys did. So we're talking about a different group.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the name recognition as some of the other tandems out there, but I wouldn't trade them for anybody else in the country. As a tandem at D tackle.
Nice to say that. It's nice to have that floating out there in your mind. Like, why wouldn't trade these guys for anybody? I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, maybe you can make a case for Oklahoma.
Nah, screw. Not doing it.
Yeah, I think it's Miami, Oklahoma, Oregon, right? When all those preseason, not that people really do magazines anymore, but all those preseason articles come out, it'll be some variation of that.
I assume we'll
be magazines though.
We'll probably be third just because of like name recognition, but I'm not worried about that. Sergio, and I know a guy's been mentioning it, Fresh been mentioning it too. Nervous with the linebacker group in depth. And I think important to remember, we are really a team that plays 2 linebackers at a given time. That's important. Getting Toure and Chase Smith back, very, very important. I can talk about experienced guys that know the defense, know what to do. And we have young guys like Riley that I think they're very happy with and excited about. Would you like to get more? Sure. Would you like to have had, and if you'd have got like Biles or whatever, like that would have been awesome, obviously. And like, you never know what could pop up as far as guys like throughout the summer, grad transfers, all that kind of stuff. So could you see more added there? Yeah, I would always say like, if we can add another guy at linebacker, another guy in the offensive line, just to see how it goes, see how that turns out, I'd be on board with it. Do we need to? No, I don't think so. I don't think we need to add a ton of guys.
I think losing Popo hurt. because that was I kind of had him penciled in as that second starter, next to Torrey. But with Torrey and Chase Smith, it's like 15 years of college experience between the two of them. Which is crazy with everyone else's waivers getting denied and whatnot. But Wiley steps up. That's kind of like that physical freak that you want, sideline to sideline. So I think that, like you're saying, grad transfer market, might help us a little bit down the road. Especially if we not tamper, but just put feelers out there that we're willing to pay, X amount for, a good linebacker, and maybe something hits, maybe it doesn't. But I kind of look at linebacker almost in the same light as like the tight end on offense. Is it the best position we have? No. But I think we're good enough there. Especially with all just the experience, we should be able to make up for any lack of physical talent with just that, seeing everything over the 15 years combined college ball that they've played.
Torrey knows how to play. Torrey made a lot of plays for us this year, especially a lot of plays when the defensive line's doing their job and stringing the play out, and the DB's doing their job and forcing it back in, and then running that alley, making a play like in space. Like he did that a ton for us. So I know he has that. And Chase Smith got better and better. Once he got healthy, he became the Chase Smith we talked about 15 years ago when he was a recruit. Like, Willie Smith's baby boy, able to make some plays.
One thing we really, I haven't really heard anyone say, right? This was the first year in Heatherman's, system too. So I think just, that continuity going into year two, I think just across the board, not just linebacker, we're just going to see, some elevation and even play quicker than we did, this past year, which is, insane to think about because they were playing fast and violent pretty much the entire year.
Yeah, and tell you what, like you look at that Indiana defense, people were like, oh, they're cheating, they're blah, blah, blah. But like those are guys that in that second year of that system, with a lot of those guys having played that second year and played a lot of snaps last year and this year, you could tell they were a very comfortable team in that system. All the guys and many of them came from JMU. So the guys that came from JMU in their third, fourth year in the system, Pons and Kamara and those dudes. So like we're talking about guys that were really comfortable playing that team, and it showed on tape. It showed on a game day when we had to see it. So
I see Darius Hayes' name keeps popping up. He was involved in a very bad car accident where multiple.
He's out of there, right? I mean, if not, he's going to be.
He's not coming back. It's probably more likely that he spent some time in jail. 3 counts of vehicular homicide.
Yeah.
So
not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Sergio, great point about getting all the cornerbacks back. I was also very surprised about that. I think your question before was more surprised about that or the running backs all returning. I was more surprised that the corners came back. Like I never expected to get all those dudes because you got to figure, hey, clean, easy way to go start somewhere else. I got the tape. Now I can go find a job where I'm not going to get rotated. But it's great to see. I mean, depth of corner is something we've needed forever.
We just saw it.
Yep.
We just saw it. And Jabari Antoine, is gonna be year 2. So you really have 5 outside corners that you're like you're comfortable playing.
Yeah, really happy with.
Yeah, so I feel good about that. Kind of when that initial portal class when we got Lucas and O'Connor. We had Damari as a recruit.
Brantley was in there. I know he didn't play, but he was another guy just kept stacking the room.
Yeah, OJ too. All those guys we were talking about, like, hey, like, they all have multiple years of eligibility left. So I think we're really going to see that pay off in 2026. That was a young group, right? They were all like second year guys, third year guys. So the maturity I think is going to take a big step forward. Not just like play maturity, football IQ wise. Not that they're immature off the field.
For sure. And then CF Keem had this before we get out of here. I said, Chris, before you guys leave, will anyone watch the new ESPN podcast about the Pata murder? 100%. I mean, everyone's going to watch that. I know that the article came out a couple years ago. I forgot how long it's been now, because in my mind, it's more recent than it probably was. But I read the article. They had a really good, like, long form article with all the information that's come up over the past couple years and like how long it's been to like get all that stuff together. But in terms of investigating, you could criticize ESPN all you want, but in terms of investigative journalism, they really nailed that one. So
the title's a turn off just because it's Murder at the U. But it's a sad, unbelievable story. Just start to finish. I'm gonna watch it. But maybe I mean the title worked because it generated enough buzz for everyone to be talking about it. But just a crazy, like I said, unbelievable story.
Yeah, just like see if Kane mentioned the same thing. When is that coming on? I don't know.
It premieres February 12th.
There you go. If those of you guys that remember like where you were when you heard the news, kind of a thing. I think Bill and I were in the same spot. I think we're at work, if I'm not mistaken, like some kind of like thing we had to do. But I'm pretty sure I remember being there, and that it was probably Bill that told me, honestly, all of it. But yeah, it's something you want to see just for information, but obviously just not something you want to relive over and over and over again. But that'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen out there. Miami doing the work they need to. Already, week and a couple days past, a debilitating loss in the national championship game, then the opportunity to come right back. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Poor Knox saying you hear that the championship game is the highest, most viewed sporting event in 10 years. I mean, probably besides the Super Bowl.
Outside of NFL, yeah.
Yes, outside the NFL. But, I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to go for. You get a team in Miami that like a fan base that is on fire for the Canes as they've always been despite all the losses, like Steve said before, the money people lining up the cash to get these things happen. Even the old money people that used to pay guys where they can't pay, and then now they want to get back in to pay more. That's how much the money people are lined up. It was always going to be a recipe for success. And Mario, as much as maybe we doubted things when Middle Tennessee State came calling, I mean, not many people are bringing that game up now. So working out pretty well. But before we get out of here, Bill, final thoughts for the people.
It's fun to be a Miami Hurricanes fan again.
Some might say it's great.
It's great. But it's even after SMU, things probably couldn't get much worse. And then this team, something clicked, right? They started murdering people. And then, we got an unbelievable playoff run, make it to the national championship, fall just short. And then, within a little over 7 days, you completely reload and the entire fan base, is expecting to make another run in the playoffs. So, I'm excited. But again, it's just fun, right? I don't dread coming to these shows Wednesday nights anymore.
No, it's like, what are we going to talk about today? It's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I remember back in the day of like trying to come up with slideshows and like send out lifelines to some of the guys who were pulling in res recruits and be like, I don't know, man, what are we going to talk about with this dude? But very different conversation. You get a quarterback, you could talk. You could talk a lot of talk. I think TBD is going to turn it around. It's not the kind of talk we wanted to have. But, I rarely do this, Bill. I rarely do this, but I'm going to have a final thought for the people today. Only, and it's nothing to do with Miami Hurricanes football, but I bet a lot of you guys are somewhat affected by it. But if you guys didn't hear, Bill Belichick was denied entry into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I want you guys to think about it two ways. As a fan of the game of football, you should be confused as to why he was not put in as the first ballot Hall of Famer, having 6 Super Bowl championships. However, I'm speaking as a Jet fan, wearing Jets pajama pants as we speak. Many of you guys are Hurricane/Dolphins fans. You know what it's like to be there. Port Knox, probably the only guy with any sort of ownership over Bill Belichick that's in this chat right now is a Giants fan. To the idea of him not making it as a first ballot Hall of Famer, good. Hilarious. Maybe one of the best things that I've experienced as a football fan in the past decade. Because the Jets, 0 events have been good. Miami, a handful. That's one of the best. That's one of the. How many ships did he win without Brady? None. How many would he win if he had his whole career without Brady? None. I could say that with confidence because he hasn't done it. So how about write that on a napkin, Belichick? Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Hurricanes, Bears, B-Harp. I usually hate him just what the hell? Why not, right?
We'll actually see Bill Belichick on Halloween.
Oh, his girlfriend will dress up as what? On the sideline, Bill. I'm going to set you up, Bill. That was a trap. That was probably a trap. Unless she's going to coach the team on that day.
You might not even be the coach at that point, so who knows?
That's true. Scary. Anyway, Port Knox is exactly the same mind of thought I am. Thank you, Port. That's what we're talking about. But anyway, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for tuning into the show and spending some time with us on a Wednesday night to talk about Miami Hurricanes football. Coming up over the next, I don't know, what day is it? It's almost February. Then we have, really, we're at 7 months, right? 7 months before like real football.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Our first game is the 4th, but there are games. First college game, I believe, starts on the 29th.
All right. So we got like 28-ish shows for you guys between now and more like real deal football. But in the mix there, we have spring ball. We have probably a summer grad transfer thing. We have summer practices. We have
the all-time fantasy draft too.
All-time Miami Hurricanes fantasy draft. Hell, if I one day I'm just gonna say like I'm gonna do it with the fans, and we're just gonna have all the fans in there. Whoever fans sign up and just whoever show up that day. But got a lot of stuff for you guys over the coming months. This is when we kind of start doing crazy stuff. So question and answer periods where you guys try to ask Steve-O questions, but Bill and I jump in and answer it anyway. But, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we still sucked. Fort Knox, I appreciate you. Anyway, but yeah, so a lot of good stuff to talk about along the way to what could be a national championship season for the Miami Hurricanes. Very exciting. Good time to be a Hurricanes fan. Great to be a Hurricanes fan. All right, so that'll do it for us. Thank you to everybody over at CanesInSight for allowing us to do what we do. We appreciate D-Money and all the guys who are like all over the breaking news of what's going on. Jump onto the website, the message board for information, on there. D-Money was a great job of keeping you guys updated in the podcast, obviously all over the YouTube channel. Thank you to Steve-O. Thank you to Bill. My name is Chris. We'll see you again next week right here, as always, on 3 Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free. Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, but he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big games.
Hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right.